अपने इमोशंस और मैं क्या फील कर रहा हूं उसको किन शब्दों में बयान करूं.
There is something about captivity that makes one feel
like a state of somewhere between life and death.
Nurturing hope in jail is a risky business. The higher you hope,
the higher is the height from which you come crashing down.
I'm afraid of hope. Umar Khalid has been in jail since 14 September 2020.
अगर आप इस वीडियो को देख रहे हैं, इसका यह मतलब है कि मुझे गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया है. क्या खता है मेरी? क्या ये खता है मेरी कि मैं बोलता हूं कि देश जितना आपका उतना मेरा भी है?
We are his friends and we will be reading out excerpts
from an article he had written for the Quint from prison.
A book I finished recently is Fyodor Dostoyevsky's The House of Dead. Reading the book, the eeriest thought that came to me was how little has changed when it comes to experiences of imprisonment. Over 150 years have passed since the events described in this book, and also it is from a different part of the world. But at many places I felt as if he was narrating occurrences that I see around myself here in Tihar. At one place in the book, he quotes a fellow inmate reflecting about the state of imprisonment. We are not alive, though we are living. We are not in our graves, though we are dead.
I remember telling Bun and Daisy some time back, wherein I tried to describe how surreal it was to return to jail after my brief 7 days interim bail. I had in fact invoked a biblical story about jail being like the graveyard of the living. Interestingly, I hadn't read the book back then. There is indeed something about captivity that makes one feel like a state of somewhere between life and death.
In a few days, it's going to be 5 years since I was brought to this place. At times, I'm amazed how I have survived so long in this confined space and not been restless through most of this period. Well, there were days when I was irritable and depressed, and unfortunately, Bruno became the person whom I vented it out on. But such days were few. Mostly, I have been at peace all through this time.
Anyways, another reason I have survived this space for so long and been calm about it is because I have not thought about time in such large chunks. Though eventually it became clear that this would be a long haul. But while living through the days here, there's always an immediate date to focus on. One that is usually a few days or at most a few months away. I am talking about the bail hearings going on since July 2021. These dates at short periods give us something to look forward to, something to mark time by, and also something to hope about.
जुल्म की रात लंबी नहीं होती, वो सुबह जरूर आएगी.
Probably I'm no longer the optimist that I used to be earlier, as some of my friends have felt. It is true, but my lack of optimism is based on a realistic assessment of the present political situation. And as I have said earlier too, nurturing hope in jail is also a risky business. The higher you hope, the higher is the height from which you come crashing down. Simply put, I'm afraid of hope, so I try not to remain hopeful.
Let me tell you a story. I know a prisoner who has been in jail for the last 29 years. He is sentenced for life. And unlike a normal life imprisonment, which is basically 14 plus years, his punishment categorically states that he is to remain in prison till his last breath without any parole. The court has given him capital punishment, but after being in a death row for several years, he was saved from the gallows by a presidential pardon. As mentioned above, he was to get no parole ever, so he continued to live, but with the knowledge that till his last breath he has to continue to live in jail.
When he came to jail sometime in the early 1990s, he was in his 20s. Now he is in his 50s.
In the initial days, I wondered where that peace came from. Was it because of some realization of his crimes? Did he feel guilty about what he had done all those years ago? Did he feel that what he was going through was a result of his actions? Did he feel that he was going through some sort of penance? Or maybe he felt no remorse at all. Needless to say, I never asked him what he felt about what he had done. You don't ask such questions in jail. I thought he had resigned to living life of captivity for the rest of his life. Little did I know that he too has not abandoned hope, and having discovered a legal opening in his case, had been making some efforts towards it for the last few years to get some relief.
When he first moved court, it did not rule in his favor. He challenged it in High Court, but the High Court also did not rule in his favor. As a last effort, he challenged the High Court order in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in his favor. Finally, he was granted a 21-day furlough, and after 28 years in jail, he got to step out of jail.
When he came back, I asked him what the outside world seemed like after all those years. I asked him who came to receive him and how he came back to jail. As I said earlier, he speaks little, but in the few words he spoke, he said he felt as if he was outside for 21 minutes, not 21 days. He also spoke of how only a handful of relatives he knew back in the 1990s are alive, and how many new family members he met who were strangers to him, and to whom he too is a stranger.
In case you're wondering why he didn't run away, why he voluntarily walked back into prison even after he got a chance to step out, that's because he has still not stopped hoping and is in fact expecting more relief from the courts in the coming years. He himself told me this, that now he is eligible for 3 furloughs every year, and if he keeps going out and coming back to jail for a few years, the court may consider him eligible for release.
One would never run away because of hope. No matter how outlandish, hope is a powerful deterrent. Anyone who gives considerable time to jail won't run away even if the gates are open for them. He will wait for the court order first. He will count on hope. Those are a few thoughts I had on hope and waiting, on despair and longing.
5 years have passed.
Half a decade. That's time enough for people to complete their PhDs and look for jobs.
Time enough to fall in love, get married, have kids.
Time enough for one's kids to grow beyond recognition.
Time enough for the world to normalize the genocide in Gaza.
And time enough for our parents to grow old and feeble.
Is it time enough
For the release of Umar Khalid and all the other political prisoners.
तहे दिल से मेरी आप लोगों से एक अपील है, अहिंसा, सत्याग्रह, ये दो हमारे सबसे बड़े हथियार हैं। महात्मा गांधी ने हमको ये हथियार दिए थे। न अहिंसा को छोड़ेंगे, न सत्याग्रह को छोड़ेंगे।
Hello, I'm Aditya Menon. We at the Quint have never shied away from bringing out uncomfortable truths around the 2020 Northeast Delhi violence. We have given space to incarcerated individuals like Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam and Gulfisha Fatma. On the other hand, our investigative series questioned the official narrative around the riots. For instance, this story by Aishwarya Iyer and myself exposed a major fallacy in the Delhi police's chronology, and it was cited in court as well. Then we showed how the police ignored a number of complaints against BJP and Hindutva leaders. It isn't our job to say if someone is guilty or innocent, but we do believe that several aspects have been ignored in the entire probe. These investigations are difficult to do and often come at great risk to our reporters. Be our strength in this by becoming a member of the Quint.